Let us begin where many have misunderstood the foundation of wealth. We are often deceived into thinking that money is simply a matter of hard work, clever strategies, or connections with the powerful. But have you not observed that there are those who labor from sunrise to sunset and still remain in the shackles of poverty, while others seem to move with ease and resources follow them? There is a mystery here, and that mystery begins with alignment. You cannot pray effectively for financial breakthrough unless your life is in alignment with divine purpose. For wealth is not neutral. It is directional. It flows like a river, and a river only nourishes those who position themselves in its path. When you lift your voice in the prayer of alignment, you are not merely uttering words into the air. You are synchronizing your spirit with heaven's grand design. Wealth is not meant to fund recklessness. It is meant to empower vision. And heaven has no interest in sponsoring vanity. God is not moved by noise. He is moved by purpose. If your desire for resources is only to boast, to compete, or to live in extravagance, then you have misunderstood the spiritual economy. But if your cry is that you may be resourced to fulfill destiny, to impact lives, to build rather than destroy, then your prayer touches the very heart of God. Think about it. The wealth of Solomon was not for personal display, though he enjoyed it. It was a demonstration of God's wisdom to the nations. The provision for Elijah by the brook was not to make him comfortable, but to sustain him until his mission at Mount Carmel. Joseph's rise to economic authority in Egypt was not for his luxury, but to preserve nations in the time of famine. Do you see the pattern? God releases resources when there is a divine assignment that requires those resources. Alignment, therefore, is the positioning of your life such that heaven can trust you with wealth, because you will not misuse it. Many people pray, but they pray amiss. They ask for money without asking for mission. They demand for breakthrough without clarity of vision. And so their prayers bounce back empty, because heaven cannot fund confusion. To pray the prayer of alignment is to first ask, Lord, what is my purpose? For purpose is the womb of provision. When you know who you are and what you are sent to do, suddenly the channels of resources begin to open. Opportunities you never imagined start to gravitate toward you. Not because you are lucky, but because you are aligned. Psychologists will tell you that the human mind has an uncanny ability to attract what it consistently focuses on. Philosophers remind us that clarity precedes power. When you are clear about your purpose, your entire being, your words, your energy, your network begins to organize itself toward that reality. Prayer, therefore, is not simply a cry to the heavens. It is also the discipline of aligning your subconscious with divine truth. It reorders your desires, trims away distractions, and sharpens your intent. And once your inner world is aligned, your outer world cannot resist but to comply. Let me say it plainly, blocked money is often not outside of you. It is within you. The money exists, but it cannot find you because your life is out of alignment. Like a signal searching for a receiver, wealth is scanning for purpose. And if your life is tuned to the wrong frequency, the signal will pass you by. But once you adjust, once you tune yourself through prayer, through obedience, through clarity, suddenly what seemed impossible begins to manifest. You will find that the clients you needed were always there. The ideas you needed were always within you. The partners you sought were already looking for you. Alignment made the connection visible. This is why alignment must precede deliverance. What is the use of being delivered from poverty if you are still misaligned? You will return to the same bondage. It is also why alignment must precede multiplication. What is the point of multiplying resources if you are multiplying confusion? The foundation of every prayer that unlocks wealth is the prayer that says, Lord, align me with your will. Align me with your timing. Align me with your direction. For a life in alignment is a magnet for resources. When you begin to pray this way, you stop asking for money as though you are begging for crumbs, and you start declaring wealth as though you are calling forth a partner. You recognize that you and money are not enemies, You are co-workers in the fulfillment of divine purpose. You see money not as an idol to be worshipped, nor as a demon to be feared, but as a servant to be directed. And when heaven sees that you have this posture, heaven responds with abundance, because abundance in the wrong hands is dangerous, but abundance in aligned hands transforms nations. Consider your own life for a moment. Are your prayers centered only on escape from lack, or are they centered on the accomplishment of destiny? Do you ask for resources to compete with your neighbor? Or do you ask so that you may contribute to humanity? Do you cry for money simply to enjoy it in the now? Or do you yearn for wealth that will speak long after you are gone? These are the questions that alignment forces you to confront. And when your answers align with God's answers, then your resources will align with your needs. The greatest tragedy is not that people are poor, it is that people are misaligned. For misalignment guarantees stagnation no matter how talented you are. But alignment guarantees progress, even if you begin with nothing. For the widow in Zarephath had only a little oil, but when she aligned with the word of the prophet, that oil multiplied until lack was silenced. So I urge you today, when you kneel to pray for wealth, first pray for alignment. For when your purpose is clear, your vision strong, and your heart purified, then heaven itself will conspire to release what was once withheld. Money is not your problem, misalignment is the alignment, and money will find you. If alignment with divine purpose is the foundation, then the next great obstacle is the presence of barriers, those unseen blockages that suffocate prosperity even when the path seems clear. There are men and women whose lives are disciplined, whose vision is sharp, whose purpose is noble, and yet their finances remain trapped in invisible cages. You see them trying, you see them sowing effort, and yet you do not see the harvest. At this point, one must admit that not every struggle with money is material. Some are spiritual, some are psychological, and some are a complex interplay of both. That is why the second prayer is the prayer of deliverance from blockages. For without deliverance, alignment remains incomplete. Let us begin with the spiritual reality. Scripture is not silent about the fact that there are forces which seek to chain men into poverty. Jesus himself spoke of a thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. This thief does not always appear in visible form. It operates through patterns, through curses, through generational cycles that repeat themselves until someone rises to break them. How else do you explain families where poverty seems hereditary, where no matter how gifted the children are, they struggle as their parents did, bound to the same story of lack? These are not mere coincidences, they are strongholds. The prayer of deliverance confronts these strongholds with authority. It is not a polite negotiation with poverty. It is warfare. It is the refusal to let unseen chains dictate your destiny. When you pray this way, you are declaring that what afflicted your father will not afflict you, that the story of your mother will not be the story of your children, that cycles of lack, of debt, of insufficiency end with you. Deliverance is the tearing of contracts that were signed in the spirit realm without your consent. Deliverance is the breaking of covenants that tied you to scarcity, sometimes before you were even born. But let us not only speak of spirits and generational curses, for the battlefield is not merely in the heavens, it is also in the mind. There are people who do not need demons to keep them poor. Their own mindset has become their greatest oppressor. If you have been conditioned to believe that money is evil, then subconsciously you will sabotage your own prosperity. If you have been trained to think that wealth is reserved only for others, you will never even attempt to pursue it with conviction. And if deep within you there is a belief that you are unworthy of abundance, then even when opportunities come, you will repel them with fear, with procrastination, or with self-sabotage. That is why the prayer of deliverance must also address the psychological. For deliverance is not only casting out what binds you from without, but also uprooting what binds you from within. Many are imprisoned by invisible walls. Walls of low self-worth, walls of fear, walls of self-doubt. And what is tragic is that these walls are often disguised as humility or caution. They say, I don't need much, just enough to survive. Yet hidden beneath such words is a spirit of limitation that convinces them to settle for crumbs while the banquet of abundance has been prepared. Philosophers have long said that man is enslaved by his own thoughts. If you believe you are poor, you will live poor even if money comes into your hands. You will waste it, you will lose it, you will despise it until it flees from you. But if you believe you are destined for abundance, then even in small beginnings you will treat your resources with dignity. And soon the universe will conspire to multiply what you have. That is why prayer of deliverance must also be a reprogramming of the mind. It is not only Lord deliver me from demons, but also Lord deliver me from limiting beliefs. Consider this, the Israelites were delivered from Egypt in a single night, but it took 40 years to deliver Egypt from their mind. They carried the mindset of slaves even when they were free men, and because of that many of them never entered the promised land. Do you see the danger? You can be liberated externally but still bound internally. And so the prayer of deliverance is continuous. It is the discipline of breaking chains daily, whether those chains are spiritual or mental. But here lies a deeper truth: deliverance without responsibility is temporary. You cannot pray away poverty if you continue to embrace the very habits that perpetuate it. What is the use of breaking spiritual curses if you still waste money recklessly? What is the use of being freed from mental blockages if you refuse to learn discipline, strategy, and stewardship? Deliverance clears the path, but you must walk on it. It is the removal of barriers, but you must build new structures of wisdom, discipline, and foresight. Otherwise the blockages will return. And so when you engage in the prayer of deliverance, do it with seriousness. Do not pray casually. Pray as though your life depends on it. Because in truth it does. Your future, your children, your legacy. All of it depends on whether you break the chains or remain bound. Cry out with authority, not fear. Declare with conviction, not hesitation. Let your voice thunder into the heavens and say, enough is enough. The poverty that has stalked me ends here. The insufficiency that has crippled my family ends now. The doubts that have kept me small are silenced. I tell you, once the chains are broken, you will feel it. Opportunities will begin to appear where there was once dryness. Ideas will flow where there was once confusion. Partnerships will come where there was once rejection. Deliverance creates space, and in that space, abundance can finally set. So let no one deceive you into thinking that all you need is hard work or good luck. Those are important, but without deliverance, they are often wasted. For what is the use of hard work if a curse eats your harvest? What is the use of luck if your mindset rejects opportunity? Deliverance is the unlocking of the locks, the removal of the barriers, the silencing of the voices that whisper you cannot. And once those locks are shattered, your alignment takes full effect, and your resources flow unhindered. If alignment positions you to receive, and deliverance removes the barriers that resist you, then there remains one last dimension without which your journey to financial freedom is incomplete. It is the prayer of activation, the declaration that not only unlocks blocked wealth, but also transforms it into a living, multiplying force. For what good is it to receive if you cannot sustain? What good is it to be blessed once, only to squander the blessing and return to the valley of life? True wealth is not an event. It is a flow, and that flow is sustained by stewardship and activated through intentional prayer. You see, too many people pray for money as though receiving is the end of the story. They shout for breakthrough, they fast for release, they travail for opportunities, and when the money finally arrives, they mismanage it until it evaporates. And then they return to prayer as though God is a slot machine to be pulled again and again. But heaven does not waste resources. God is not a careless investor. If you cannot be trusted to multiply, heaven will not keep pouring. That is why the prayer of activation is not simply a cry for money. It is a commitment to stewardship. It is saying, Lord, give me the wisdom to manage, the discipline to preserve, and the insight to multiply what you release into my hands. Think of the parable of the talents. One man received 5 talents, another 2, another 1. The first 2 multiplied what they had and were rewarded with more. The last buried his talent and was called wicked. Notice this: the master was not impressed with preservation. He demanded multiplication. In the economy of heaven, money is never meant to stagnate. It is meant to grow, to move, to serve purpose. Therefore, when you pray the prayer of activation, you are declaring that wealth in your hands will never die. It will multiply. Psychologists will confirm that money is not only material, it is deeply psychological. It responds to the way you think, the way you behave, the patterns you cultivate. A reckless mind will always attract recklessness with money. A disciplined mind will always attract multiplication. And so prayer must address the psychology of stewardship. It is not enough to cast out demons of poverty if you still invite them back through financial indiscipline. Prayer of activation is where you submit your habits to God, asking Him to shape your decisions, so that your wealth becomes a servant, not a master. Philosophers tell us that wealth is potential energy. It is not valuable until it is directed toward a goal. And indeed, money in the hands of a fool becomes a weapon of destruction. But money in the hands of the wise becomes a tool of transformation. To activate wealth is to move it from the level of mere survival to the level of influence. It is to declare that your money will educate children, will heal the sick, will build communities, will speak long after you are gone. And once heaven sees that intention, it releases resources more abundantly. For heaven funds impact, not idle. The tragedy of our age is not that people do not have access to money. It is that money in their hands lacks direction. Too many receive but never multiply. Too many build lifestyles, but not legacies. Too many think in days but not in decades. The prayer of activation reshapes that. It is the discipline of commanding your money with vision. You stand and declare, every coin in my hand shall multiply. Every seed I sow shall bear fruit. Every opportunity I touch shall expand. In that moment you are not begging. You are legislating. You are activating spiritual laws that govern abundance. And let me be clear, activation is not only spiritual declaration. It is also practical discipline. To pray for multiplication and then waste your income is hypocrisy. To ask God for more while refusing to learn investment, budgeting, or stewardship is spiritual laziness. The prayer of activation empowers you to act. It awakens creativity, sharpens discernment, and stirs boldness. Ideas begin to flow, networks begin to form, and strategies begin to crystallize. Suddenly you see possibilities where you once saw impossibilities, because the spirit of multiplication has been activated within you. History is filled with men and women who understood this principle.